Have you ever felt like your world has been turned upside down, leaving you helpless and in constant pain? I have, and I'm sure if I ask the audience, I'm sure, more than one or two people who put their hands up. I have, and my story is one of resilience, transformation, and finding strength in unexpected places. My legacy began long ago and continues as I craft my story, which, well, until I close my eyes, will continue.
We are making a dent in the universe that we cannot just simply be ignored. This is what we are doing here. We are intentional about that. That is why we are recording this room. After today, it's going to be available for people to listen to. But most importantly, it's going to be available for the unborn too. Because this is our experience. We are here. We are living. We are experiencing things.
The universe allowed you through God's power to be here, and that means something. You are here for a reason. And whatever your experiences, challenges, twists and turns in your life is, if you focus on learning the lesson, then you are able to build a viable, very viable, and ever-present legacy for those who have similar stories and circumstances, and most importantly, to build resilience for your children or your family members who are coming behind and who want to emulate you.
Hello and thank you for checking out this video. I'm Obehi, the host of the African Diaspora Storytelling Series. Every 2 weeks we meet up on LinkedIn to talk about different ways we can leverage the power of storytelling as people of African descent. Now this is it. We are uniting the millions of Africans in the diaspora through the power of our story. It does sound like what you are interested in. Make sure to subscribe to this channel and share this video with your friends who might need it. Now, back to today's conversation. Today is an important topic because we are talking about something that we talk about quite often here, which is the legacy. If you go to A-Classes media, you see that we pay attention to life and legacy. This is particularly important for us because we believe that what we are doing it intentionally, and we are also conscious of the fact that those that are going to be here after us need to be able to experience the life that we have lived. For that reason, we are looking at how we can use the power of storytelling to be able to project ourselves into the future, while at the same time celebrating those who have been here before us. You see, it's often said that we can see far ahead of us because we are standing on the shoulder of giants. And these giants are usually the people that have been before us, people that have laid the foundation upon whom we actually are standing, sitting, or dancing, whatever we are doing within our time's space. I have given an example to some people sometime that if you grew up in a village like me, because I grew up in a village in southern Nigeria, which is Uromi to be precisely. So when we were going to the farm, we will usually see a footpath that you would take to the farm to go and cultivate, harvest, and do all sort of things in the farm, because we are basically an agrarian community in Nigeria. Now, when you are going to the farm, you see that that footpath, which if you look at geography again, if you are a student of geography, you see what is usually referred to as the contour line. The contour line, I think they are those lines that connect sort of equal height. But what is important is that if you are sort of taking a look at the geographical map, maybe you are a little bit away from the map, you see that there is this line that is connecting everything. That is a dot that is sort of letting you know that there is a connection between these places of equal height, so that if you can simply just draw a line and say, okay, this is of certain altitude, the other one is of certain altitude, this one is lower, the other one is higher. So how did we get those lines? How did we get those definition that help us understand our position, our bearing in the world? If we were to take it back again to what I'm saying, which is the footpath in the village. That footpath is an evidence that people have been there before us. It's an evidence that we are not the one that are setting the path for the first time because other people have done it before us. So this is the legacy. This is the story. This is the history, which is to say that we are here because of other people. We are here thanks to the effort of other people. So I remember, for example, now talking of the five-part storytelling, which is the storytelling mastery. In the first book in the series, I was talking of food. I was saying, how do we even know that that thing we are eating is food? Of course, we know because other people have experimented on it before. Other people have tested it. Do you know that some people who have tested it, some of them have literally died because they didn't know what is the content of that thing that they are eating? Because this experiment has been carried out for thousands of years, then we can just simply go there and pluck this fruit and eat. We are eating it based on the evidence of the research. The research that been carried out by our ancestors, sometimes paying with their life, that this is the way life is. So we own everything we know to those who have been here before us. And this is on the background that I think storytelling and legacy is important for us because we are paying attention to where we are coming from. And of course, the contribution that we also need to make for other people that are going to be here before us. So all these are important for us, particularly if you are looking at the people of African descent or those in the African diaspora, looking at the peculiar story that we have had, looking at the peculiar experiences that we have had and we are continuously having even till date. So these are more of what we are going to be reflecting on today and looking at the conversation on strategically using storytelling to build legacy. Because again, this experience, this contour line, this fainting footpath in the village road now, or in the city, wherever you might be living, is not going to be there just by itself. It's not going to shape itself. Somebody's going to pay attention to make sure that that fainting footpath remains there as a testament of what has happened before. So that is the strategic part of it. That we need to intentionally shape that narrative so that people don't get confused, so that we leave an evidence that we have been here. All right, so the first speaker that is going to be speaking just now is going to be Egbomi Gloria Tino. Thank you so much for being here. Please take the mic.
Thank you, Aburomi, Obehi, my brother. Greetings, everybody. Lovely to see you here. Thank you for being here. My name is Gloria Tinu Ogumbadejo. I'm Nigerian from the Yoruba culture. I'm an ordained minister, an ancestral lineage healing practitioner and coach, a writer, and I work and support African women ministers who want to add spirituality to their ministry, as well as working generally with Africans in the diaspora who are looking to bring more harmony, balance, and peace to their lives through storytelling, ancestral lineage healing, African spirituality, and the interconnected practices at play, with these crucial roles. This is a really interesting topic and one that I thought about in so many different ways at how could I approach it. And there are many ways. We all know the importance and power of storytelling, and using this framework to build a legacy involves several possible components. It's crucial to be clear what you want your legacy to be. That's really first and foremost. And what impact you want to have on your community or the world at large. Identifying the values that underpin your legacy, again, very important, should be your guiding principles in sharing your storytelling. Knowing who your demographics are, what their values, attitudes, and lifestyles are really is really important. Are they your tribe? Are they your people? What are their interests, pain points, and aspirations? Are they relatable? There needs to be a compelling narrative that you craft that includes well developed, authentic characters, characters that reflect the values and struggles of the people you're talking to. I hope you are my tribe. I know you are because you're here, sharing personal stories that are authentic, relatable, reflecting the values and struggles of your audience. It's really important and adds good value when you show the growth, the transformation of the characters in your story. Authenticity and vulnerability are always a winning combination, connecting on a personal level, highlighting failures and lessons learned, showcasing any setbacks and how they were overcome. Have you ever felt like your world has been turned upside down, leaving you helpless and in constant pain? I have, and I'm sure if I ask the audience, I'm sure, more than one or two people who put their hands up. I have, and my story is one of resilience, transformation, and finding strength in unexpected places. My legacy began long ago and continues as I craft my story, which, well, until I close my eyes, will continue. I had a life before I had health challenges, a life that I considered was stable and looked a particular way, and then another life, despite all the challenges after my health issues, which looks even better, which I had not even considered would be. I've just come through quite a significant experience over the past few months, which was traumatic but was packed with an array of life changing lessons. It has been transformational, and I have had to sit with it to fully digest the experience and gather as much insight, wisdom from it. Being still and allowing myself to fully experience the distillation of the event has been, again, I use the word transformational. And I am now at a place I can share aspects of that story, adding to my legacy, share these aspects to others with a clear picture of the lessons learned and what part I have played in this process. Look out for my posts in the upcoming weeks. I have evolved from the experience, learning, traveling further along on my journey, developing another level of empathy for humanity, which I know will be a blessing as it's intentional in how I put it to use and this understanding. Creating multi layered stories, the macro and the micro stories, weaving together large scale narratives with smaller, intimate stories, creates powerful stories and legacies. Encouraging others to participate, like your wonderful selves here, sharing their stories, and ultimately contributing to the legacy, to the world legacy, to the legacy of our cultures, of our families. Regular quality content, such as our wonderful brother here, Brother Obehi, and his prolific posting. These things all add to legacy. Creating Keeping the legacy growing, collaborative work is again a very powerful way of the future and helping to keep legacies alive.
Thank you so much for that. That is highly valuable. That is highly valuable. Of course, we can see when we are pouring ourselves in the narrative. And I think that is really very, very important because we are talking about being able to connect to the people. And I also like the way that you use the term vulnerability and be authentic. And I think that is fundamentally important for us when we are connecting with people, when we are sharing our stories with them. And this is also why we continuously encourage people to leverage the power of storytelling in their business and in their professional life. You see, I am saying leverage because if you know how to use storytelling, it can become a big leverage for you if you want to connect with people. Because connecting with people is important for the fact that people are looking for connection with your brand. And that connection usually is laced into your personal experiences, it's laced into your human experiences, because what they are looking for are not just the color, are not just the statistics, the data, the 10% or 20%, or the edifice, or the beauty of how much you have made and all of that. No. What they are looking for is a human connection, that thing that have happened to you. Is not the building. So if we learn to be a little vulnerable in our story, if we learn to be a little human in our story, in the way that we share our experiences, then it will touch the hearts and mind of the people, because that is what we want to touch, the hearts and mind of the people. Statistics do not touch hearts and mind. Of course, if we say that, okay, 2 people died, 10 people died, and all of that, that can sort of, yeah, it can have an impact, but nothing is as impactful as the human chemistry, when you are able to make somebody move his ass on the seat and is moving to the edge. That is what they do to us in the cinema. You see, when you go to the cinema, you know that the story that you are being told there might not necessarily be intrinsically truth, in the sense that the man that you are watching taking a gun and shooting another person actually effectively shot a person. Because the person didn't die, the person is still here. You just see a crafted story telling you something that can possibly happen. But it didn't really happen that way, because we don't go around to be celebrating the death of people, but is the message behind it. If that story is told without putting a human face in it, it will not relate. We will have nothing to relate to, or that can resonate with us. But because that is a human being who is saying, ah, yeah, ooh, hi, ooh, by the time people are expressing those emotions, we know what it is. And let me tell you another thing. We know what it is, even if we don't understand their language. That is true. Because if you hear somebody crying, you don't need to know the language the person is crying before you can know that that person is passing through something terrible. Can you confirm that is what is happening to you? That when you hear somebody cry, you don't ask, which language are you using to cry so that I can understand what you are crying about? You don't do that. You sympathize with the person, because that go beyond the linguistics. It go beyond the grammar. It touches the human spirit. It touches the emotion of the human being. What if we could do that when we want to connect with people? Either we could strategically stir up the emotion because we want to relate with them. We are looking for a one-on-one connection. Storytelling is powerful, and this is why we are selling it to you. You need to buy it and use it wherever you are to build up whatever is it that you are building, but of course to build up a connection, to be able to relate with other people, because it is effective. It has always been effective, and it will continue to be effective. So thank you so much, Sister Gloria, for that sharing. Now we move to Dr. Marcia. Dr. Marcia, thank you so much for being here. Please take it up from me.
Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon and good evening. I say, depending on where you're listening from, it's always good to have so many persons. I see you, Margaret. I see you, Lisa. I see you, Nancy. Of course, I see you, Janine and Vassan and Brian. I have to call you out because you took the time out to join us on Wortnish. And Ferdinand and Michael and Keith and all the others who are listening. It's good to have you here. I am Dr. Marcia Thomas. I am a Christian leadership life coach and also a consultant. And I am an author, 5-time author. There's a book that is coming out that's called Lessons Learned from COVID. It's an anthology with Edney and Professor Roxanne and Dr. Ava Eagle and those persons. We will give you the launch date so you can get your copy. And then I am also a mother and a wife, and I am a Christian leader myself in a corporate organization. I find this topic to be extremely important because as a consultant and life coach, I listen to persons' stories because your experience is your story. And I help them to turn their vulnerabilities into their greatest superpower and pivot with power, or take the next new brilliant step of walking away from what is not divinely yours and showing up with the promptings that God gives to them. And it is from their stories and moments of weakness and vulnerabilities that a lot of great legacy is born. It is from your greatest pain that you have your greatest ministry. And that is really what I am about in my empowerment program and my Pivot with Power program. And so I find that I'm able to understand and share the power of using your personal story. When I personalize it to build a legacy, why is your story so important? Because your life before you were born was given to you by God, and He designed your story and where your story will be taken. So, first of all, when we are born, we are not a mistake. No matter what the circumstances is, it could have been prevented. The universe could have said you were not to be here, but the universe allowed you through God's power to be here. And that means something. You are here for a reason. And whatever your experiences, challenges, twists and turns in your life is, if you focus on learning the lesson, then you are able to build a viable, very viable, and ever present legacy for those who have similar stories and circumstances, and most importantly, to build resilience for your children or your family members who are coming behind and who want to emulate you. And so, storytelling is a powerful tool for creating this legacy because it allows individuals to bring their unique stories to the eyes and ears of those who need to hear it. It allows you to share your experiences. So you show up unapologetically because it is your story. And it allows you to preserve what is valuable in others. That is a complex thing to understand. When you use your story to give hope, to give clarity, to give confidence, to give reminders that you are enough and that nothing is hard. Life is, others are experiencing what you're experiencing. This is what I use to get through, to build resilience, to be standing here, to remain standing. It gives people that push and that drive, not to wallow in self pity and not to ascribe self blame and not to feel less than or unworthy and not to feel that their mistakes and their failures make them now not deserve to live their best life and to become what they are destined to become. Stories that build legacy, builds hope, and builds faith in people and connects people with their core values and identity of who they are and what they are capable of becoming, and allow them to stand again and walk with a renewed sense of purpose and community. It also helps persons to understand their points, their weakness points, and why these weaknesses can become strengths and how they can become strengths. And so, if we are to look at the power of storytelling, we would want to look that it has great power because your story makes you authentic and valuable. It also makes you very vulnerable, but this vulnerability is not a place of shame. It is a place of empowerment that makes you achieve or make you pronounce your achievements and celebrate what you have become and the value that you now bring and have as you sit at this table, because your failings, your mistakes, your experiences, and how you craft your story is means that you embrace or you have denied parts of you that are extremely important. So if you are using your story to build a legacy, it means that you embrace, accept, love every part of you And if there are parts of your story that you do not feel needs to be heard, but are empowering and transformative, then you have denied those parts, denied people of that legacy that was created and designed and was given to you as a sacred duty to pass on. That is how I see building legacies through storytelling. It's very important that we remind people of the strength that is within them so they can go higher and stop fumbling. That is legacy. That is living. How we serve our stories, serve people, how it transforms people, how it has transformed us, the cascading effect it has when persons encounter our story and the way it remains in their minds because it resonates in their spirits, because it gives them new life, a new perspective and courage to move forward in their life, on their path, and also to create and build their own legacy by through an appreciation of their own stories.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Matia. That is highly motivating and inspirational. I appreciate that. I really appreciate that. I believe that the message go home to the people that are listening to us, and of course to those that are going to join us later. I mean, because the room is recorded, so it's going to be available for people who will listen to us in the coming days. And of course, that again is part of the intentionality and the legacy that we're talking about here. That we are intentionally recording the moment so that we will be here. Let me share a little thing with you. You see, one of the major reasons why actually I decided to do what I'm doing today, because I started to do this one while I was still in Nigeria. The very first interview that I actually did, I still remember, was in the police station. I was in the secondary school. We just learned something in government about the Harvard couple law. I think that's what it's called. That if the police arrest somebody, he cannot be held for 24 hours without being officially charged. Now, as a young person now in school, I was curious. So I said, okay, where else could I go? Now, these are the two places that I used to go with my friends then. We go to the library to study, and we go to the court to listen. Because we were just curious. So I said, okay, where can I go? I go to the police station. I want to ask the police officer, how do you explain this? So I went there that afternoon when we closed from school. I entered the police premises. The first police officer that saw me thought I was coming with a letter to give to the boss. He told me, hey, give me the letter I will give to him. When I told him I wanted to see the boss, I told him, no, I'm not a poster man. I want to talk to the boss. I want to talk to the DPO. That is what they are called in Nigeria, the Department of Police Officer. So as we were talking, the DPO was actually walking out from the office. He saw us. Then he asked what was happening. Then the police officer told him what I was telling him. They said, okay, allow him to come. So I went there and I interviewed him. That was really an eye-opener for me because the guy actually spent the time willingly and happily respond to all my questions. And of course, until the duty call, then he left. Now, what I want to say about that is that I am really intentional about this. I love to talk to people. Most importantly, I love to listen to people because I believe that is a lot to learn there. But why? The why is that I wasn't fortunate enough to have a father around. Not because my father was a bad person, just because he died. He died when I was in primary 2. So I never had a chance of really being able to ask him a lot of questions because I believe I would have asked him a lot of questions as a child growing up. But unfortunately, I didn't have that opportunity. So what sort of subconsciously in me was that I was always looking for those explanations. So I'm sort of unintentionally be doing this, talking to people, asking questions. And that is why when I came to Italy in the August of 2004, I got to the city where I am still living today called Verona in the northern part of Italy. It just occurred to me naturally to ask, but where are the other Africans that are living there? Even though I was seeing them, but I wanted to see more about them, their experiences, something I can hold in my hands, like a book in this case. But there was nothing. I couldn't have that. Okay, I said, well, if I cannot have that, then I'm going to write it. because I've written my first book in Nigeria before I left. So now I know how to do that. So I can do that. So I just started to carry out the research, talk to people. I will talk to a person, then I will say, do you know another person that was also there by that time? They will refer me to another person, then from there to another person, there to another person. So I carry out this research for several years. In fact, until date, only that now it have expanded. So that in Obehi podcast, I'm literally doing the same thing, just listening to people, learning from them. Why now? What is the significance of that? I believe that somebody is going to find value in this story. That somebody one day listening to the conversation that we are having today, 15th of July, 2024, maybe somebody that is listening to this recording 100 years from now is going to have value from that. But how? How do I know that? I know that because with the change of time, everything suddenly become more valuable. Because in 50 years from now, things are going to change so much that the life that we live, that we call very common today, many people will be asking, but how was that? The memory will be gone from the mind of the people. Technology will change hand. The way people live will change. So our name will be wiped out from the memory of the people. But what if we can intentionally decide that somebody will remember our point of view? That is the legacy we are talking about. That we are intentionally recording our presence. We are making a dent in the universe that we cannot just simply be ignored. This is what we are doing here. We are intentional about that. That is why we are recording this room. After today, it's going to be available for people to listen to. But most importantly, it's going to be available for the unborn too. Because this is our experience. We are here. We are living. We are experiencing things. Do you know if somebody were to give me a record like I'm doing now of my father, how much I will appreciate that? But I can't have that. That maybe, for example, my son will ask me, oh, grandpa, tell me how grandpa used to talk. You see, I told you I lost my father. I was in primary 2. I think my son will love that. But we don't have that record. Therefore, I know from that people who are going to just scrambling or maybe on the internet and find a record of their grandparent or their parent or their brother talking, they're going to have value for that. Also because there are many people that I've interviewed in the Obehi podcast. After we have published the episode, somebody will call me and say, oh, that person you have interviewed is dead. It's not first time, it's not second time, it's not third time. And I've seen it a number of occasions. Then here we go back to my memory researching and say, oh, this is the person I was talking with the other day. What is the value of all this? Anyway, thank all of you again for being here. Mr. Karen Jackson, please go ahead and share something with us. Please go.
Oh my God, brother! Story that you told there, I appreciate that. That is amazing. I will tell you one thing, is that a lot of folks, we don't really realize that our stories, we can make money from our stories. We can create lives from our stories. We can create lifestyles from our stories. And a lot of people, I realize, whether you're Black American or Black European or African, of course, um, we really don't understand the power of our stories. And a lot of people that out there that can identify with it, and with the new technology and AI and the ways you can pay online and you can just do Facebook groups and LinkedIn shows like this, people don't realize, wow, you can make a lot of freaking money off of line because a lot of folks relate to you. You know, you can be a high school student, grade 12, and you're going to graduate, and you're teaching eighth grade students how to take the exam. You know, everyone has power in their story, and everyone, there's someone who's behind you. And a lot of folks don't realize that that's how you make the money online, because a lot of folks online are searching for problems, solutions. They're searching for places to go. Americans like myself, we're searching how to leave America. And I think this is one of those things where we need to really help people to tell their stories, to be able to put them in a package, and not just put them in a package, but to also target them to people who are below them, that may sound bad, but below them, to be able to educate them, talk to those people. And I think that your situation that you do, brother, is really great, and it's really wonderful. And it teaches a lot of people out there that have not been to Italy, that have not left the continent, whether it's or whether it's Africa, that have not left the continent. And now you can show them how to leave the continent, how to create Facebook groups, how to do LinkedIn. There's so many things that we know that we just don't know how to craft our story to be able to use those stories to make money for ourselves.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that. We appreciate that contribution. We love that. All right, now we move to Sister Gloria. Now, you are an ancestral healing coach because you help people to be able to straighten up their life. And of course, I know that you didn't finish your presentation before just now. Would you like to talk more how the conversation of today strategically uses storytelling to build your legacy can be relevant within the work that you do? Please share with us.
Thank you, Brother Obehi. Thank you, Brother Karim. That was interesting with your presentation. Love to hear a bit more from you. And as always, lovely to see you, Sister Marcia, and to listen to you. So, connecting with ancestral roots and incorporating stories from your ancestral lineage to add depth and authenticity to your narrative, again, is a very powerful way to create legacies, highlighting how your cultural background and heritage have shaped your values, mission, and your journey. So it's important and necessary to be intentional. That word is so important, to be intentional in making inquiries about your heritage. Engage in ancestral lineage healing sessions with a qualified practitioner like myself. Um, these are ways of introducing something much deeper into your stories for your legacy. Intergenerational wisdom is a powerful and healing sharing. Intergenerational wisdom is very powerful and healing. Sharing lessons and wisdom passed down from previous generations, illustrating the continuity and evolution of values and knowledge strengthens your legacy. Using stories of your ancestors' struggles, achievements, and resilience to inspire and motivate and deepen your own legacy. Again, I'll repeat, using stories of your ancestors' struggle, really, really important. All their struggles, their achievements, all the things that we are now are enjoying or are able to function in ways that we may not have been able to if they hadn't suffered the way they did. They have created roads, open roads for us to honor them and thereby create much more powerful legacies, highlighting timeless lessons from your lineage that remain relevant and are applicable today is part of this evolving legacy. While I was going through my recent experiences, I could recall stories my elders told of their struggles with health and triumphs and other very complicated ways that they were able to elevate themselves, that I was able to draw from this, and it empowered and strengthened me and made me really trust that I would come through whatever I was going through. Just keep going. My people had my back. And I also felt, in terms of what I'm going to give to my children, this is part of the legacies being created. Showing respect and reverence for your ancestors, acknowledging their contributions to your journey, builds your legacy, builds a legacy that you can pass down to further generations. Storytelling is a powerful tool in Yoruba culture for teaching, healing, and preserving history. Stories that convey moral lessons, resilience, and the power of the human spirit, which is very strong, providing inspiration and comfort. If you'd like to find out more about my work, I'm on LinkedIn and also my website, gloriaogumbadejo.com. Alafia to all in the room.
Thank you, sister. Thank you so much for that. I also like the idea that you make reference to the Yoruba culture, the importance of storytelling in those culture. That is this something that I'm sort of paying attention to these days. Of course, I am interviewing different experts from different field of life, particularly within the area of spirituality, history, our experiences as a people, actually, because that is what we are concentrating on, looking at our experience here, who we are, and all of that. And even when we talk about science and all that, I am trying to see how we can uh, uh, put our experiences into that, because there is nothing that exists in the human society that we cannot find a trace of in Africa. And if we are able to explain some of these dynamics for people to understand, it will go a long way in helping somebody in line with another topic that is very important to us, which is our identity crisis, and all of that. Storytelling can sort of help us to reshaping that. Because, like Sister Gloria was saying before, because you know your lineage, because you know where your ancestors are coming from, the story of your people, what they have gone through, and all of that, this sort of come to build resilience in you. Now, it sort of come to help you understand that you are not alone. Others have passed through this road before. You can certainly pass it. You can certainly pass through it. It is okay, no matter what is going on. I understand that, okay, you look at something that is bad that happened now, I'm telling you that it's okay. Well, I'm not really saying okay because something bad have happened, but that note that that is not the end of it. Know that there is a message for you to get from that. A couple of weeks ago, I wrote an article that was pretty long, talking about the concept of Ehi in Esan language, in Esan culture, because we're talking about spirituality. And Ehi is beyond the time we were born, and it's going to be beyond when we die. This is going to be important when we are explaining who we are, what we represent in the world. Now, for you to understand what I mean here, because Esan is a much smaller community compared to Nigeria, compared to Yoruba and Igbo. So, if you know about Igbo culture, a similar explanation of Ehi in Esan would be called Chi. Now, if you are a conversant of the Yoruba explanation of the same idea, looking at it from the point of view of spirituality, it's called Ori. What all these are helping us to understand is that it didn't start here, and it certainly is not going to end here. Now, if we come to understand it from that point of view, we come to have more power now, that nobody can threaten you. Nobody can tell you that I'm going to put an end to you. No, nobody can put an end to you. You are coming from eternity. You cannot be put an end to. Nothing can destroy you, especially if you know where you are coming from, if you know your heritage, your legacy. So it is important to understand the legacy upon whom our identity is built on. If we know that whatever is happening to us become just some of those things that will happen and they will go, but we are going to be here. We are going to be here because we are part of a deep and huge history. This is important for us. When you can tell story, when you can tell your story, learn how to leverage the power of your story, what you are doing is that you are detaching yourself from just a mere number or statistics. Because there are a lot of Me Too type of content out there, even within the area of business. There are a lot of people are just trying to regurgitate the messages of other people. Of course, with AI today, it becomes easy for you to just copy another person's content and put it on your own and just start your name on it. But nobody can just copy another person's story, because your story is unique. It's your unique experience. It is said that there are, since the beginning of human existence, there have been about 170 billion people. And this is what I want to tell you about that. Of these 170 billion people that have existed on Earth, none of them has been a mistake. I think Dr. Matia said something in that line that none of us is a mistake when we are born. That is absolutely true. What that means is that you have the chance to be able to make sure that you make a dent in the universe. What is your story? What are people going to remember about you when you are gone? It's not the money. I want to repeat that again. It's not the money. It's not a house. It's not the land that you have acquired. Because each of these are going to disappear. They are going to rot. But if you have a good legacy, I want to repeat that again. If you have a good legacy, nothing is ever going to touch that. So let's be intentional about that. Let's build on that, knowing that we know where we are coming from.
Okay, I'm from Ethiopia. I live in Ethiopia, and I have three children. My first son, grade 12, he's ranked in school. He's a good boy. And the other, I have a twins, girl and boy. They are good and clever students. It's my relationship with my children, just friendly, and take care of my children because it's my responsibility. And my mom and my dad, I love you so much because mom is mom, dad is dad. And my mom, very hard worker. She live in Canada, Vancouver. And my dad, the same hard worker. He's driver. My behavior and looks like my father. My father, I love you so much. Live in Ethiopia and say something to my husband. He's a nice person, especially for me, support everything. I'm Christian. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that. We appreciate your sharing. We appreciate your sharing your point of view. That is important. All right, Dr. Master, can you hear me?
I'm hearing you now. What is your question,
All
please?
right. The question is, we talk about legacy. So the question is, how do we document our story, our experiences, so that other people can have access to it, even when we are no longer here? Share with us.
I want to share, first of all, that there are some things we want to do when we are documenting our stories. We first of all want to be, how should I say it now, be authentic. We must make sure that our stories are truthful. Some of us, we go through an experience, but we hype it up in such a way that it becomes greater than it really is. And we lose the essence of what it is because the simplicity of our story does not make it invalid and does not make it not worth much. So I might have had a simple cut that affected me in such a monumental way. It was a damage on the toe. You may not be able to go to work, and you may have gotten some distress from your boss because of it. It might have turned your emotions in whack. You might have gone through anger and so on because of the delay and the distress and the fact that it started out as a small little bump on the toe, and later you discovered that it was cancer, but you came through. That is the truth. We don't need to say that we butt our toe and then because of the little butt we lost job, we did all sorts of things. We did, but we need to put the story together. So it takes progression and persons understand. And that's what I mean when I talk about making sure that our experiences are truthful and authentic. Because we do not need to sensationalize our stories. That's a little glitch there. To make them come off to be true and understanding. We must also be open to know how vulnerable we can be so that people can be valuable. We need to be clear in our language, and we need to be also very precise because we must know our message and the reason why we are telling our stories. It's not just to tell a story, that because sometimes We give our stories in settings where it is not relevant, and so it loses its importance and impact and influence and its intended purpose, or we give it at a time that is not appropriate. We, when we are giving our stories in whatever form we need to give our stories, must focus on our purpose and intent, and we must be able to understand that if our story is true, then our story remains consistent and constant across multiple platforms. Because you see, building a legacy takes time, even if we are telling a true and authentic story. And a lot of times we are not very cognizant of that because our stories do not evoke the emotions that they are required to evoke because we just feel that it is a story. But if we are intentional and purposeful about building a legacy, then our story carries with it a certain type of intention. There is nobody that goes into a battle with guns and take arrows. None. There is nobody who is going into a battle and stands in the middle of a battle and is looking around to find the opponent that is best suited for them. Persons prepare properly before a battle so that they can have an advantage. When we are building a legacy with our stories, we have to have that same approach where we do it with intention and purpose. So it takes root, it has meaning, it leaves the impression, it connects, it inspires, it transforms, it motivates, and it propels people to do better for themselves and to claim their purpose for their lives, to embrace their core values, their authenticity, to be unapologetic about the steps that they take, and to also create their stories in such an intentional and purposeful way that they also leave a legacy. So each one reach one. And the footsteps that we leave behind, when others come behind us, they find us faithful. That is really the issue of storytelling that builds a legacy. And so we can mentor persons through our story. We can do it through a mastermind, a masterclass, a group setting, workshops. We can create projects and legacies and grants in the names of those by telling their story. Nelson Mandela has a powerful story. It has been used in so many ways in podcasts, in building historical community centers. He has left gathering spaces. There is an archive that preserves his story. There are videos, there are podcasts, there are so many webinars or courses that have been created through the resilience of Nelson Mandela. Bob Marley also. There are centers for Bob Marley, historical centers, archives. There are studios that have been created in the name of Bob Marley. So there are many ways that we can promote and leave our stories. We can have digital material that can be newsletters, blogs. We can have magazines. It doesn't have to be a book of our life story, but we can also have our biographies, we can have autobiographies, and we can also have corporations. We can create social media communities, we can create Facebook groups, and we can have chat lines where persons with similar experiences can call for support. We can create supportive networks. The basis and foundation of our stories and how we overcome can teach other persons how to overcome in the ways that they can be reached and they will impact them the most. So storytelling for me, building a legacy, is multifaceted, and does not center in just one medium. There are multiple ways in which we can really choose to use our stories to build a legacy and to improve our lives, our outlook on our perspectives, and also to help others to do the same.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much. And yeah, there are many ways to do this. There are many ways to go about it. And it is important that we understand that if we do this well, it can also help us in a variety of ways. We can also make a lot of money from that. It can also become economic opportunity, empowerment for us. We can build a storytelling, actually a multi-trillion dollars economy. and it functioned all across, from the military to the businesses to politics to religion. There is nobody who will not listen to story or to storytelling if it's well packaged and presented to them. Anyway, we're talking about legacy today. Now, Karen, what would you like to say? Because now you're from the United States, but you live in Asia country, and you also, of course, realize that your ancestors are coming from Africa, and now you want to leave a legacy for your children to inherit. Tell me more about that. How are you approaching it?
Brother Obehi, may I quickly say something before Brother Karim
Okay, yeah.
speaks?
Yes, go ahead. Yes, go ahead, girl. Yes, go ahead, sister.
I wanted to just speak to Sister Worknesh, if that's your correct name. You mentioned something, and I hope I didn't mishear, but I also want to acknowledge you said something quite painful about the loss of your children. They were killed. If I misheard, please forgive me. But I just don't want that to have just been said and there've been no response to it, because that was something very painful. And I want to say I witness you, I see you, and I'm sorry for your loss. And I'm very happy you're here with us today. And there's a reason why you've been brought to join us in this room. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you. We appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. All right, Karen, it's your turn.
I just want to say I got some breaks and bitches, but if that is so, I thank you, Doria, for highlighting it. It's very important. And there's a story right there, Wernish. Whatever lessons you may have learned and how you navigated those challenges and those experiences, I want you to document it because it's really a form of healing that is traumatic in itself, and it's
Yes,
really
you there, yellow?
writing it down and
Yellow, yellow.
exploring your feelings and how you transcend, and the steps that you took to get to the point where you could share it on a stage like this is extremely important, and it is a really a powerful tool of healing. I know because I have had to do it. I have lost 5 members of my family in 1 month, and I had to heal myself. And I know that writing it down was part of my healing. So that is what I wanted to share.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Mantia. Yeah, the healing process is one of the most important aspects of storytelling too. I think there was a time we actually did an episode on that, how storytelling can help us to heal. And of course, it's not the last one that we will do. We'll come back to it again because by talking about us, what I've also learned about that, looking at this, the research that I've done here in Northern Italy, is that by talking about what is going on in our life and what we are passing through, we suddenly come to free ourselves more. In that we come to understand that it's not happening only to us. That is liberating. Understand? Because when you don't know that other people are passing through a similar thing, it might appear to you that you are carrying the word in your head. But by the time you share, it going to make sense to you that other people can also help you to carry a bit of your experiences. You see, it is said that a problem shared is a problem half solved. So let's lift our burden on the community. That is why we need to build the community so that when it is heavy on you, you don't need to carry it all alone. Lift it on the community. Let everybody share from it little by little. Then it will become lighter for you. That is so important. All right, dear Karen, please go ahead and share with us.
Well, my condolences to you as well, and I love the story. I love all of that. You guys were here in my studio this evening. For all around the world, you guys, if you're out there watching, thanks for being here as well. But you guys, I'm gonna tell you something. You said it before, brother, that I'm an American black guy, and we want to turn our stories into money. At the end of the day, that's the goal, right? To turn our stories into money, to turn our stories into access, to turn our stories into books and magazines and jobs and opportunities and things like that. So I think that when it comes down to it, a lot of us, we need to not get wrapped up in the emotion of our stories. We need to understand that if you have a situation where you've lost your children, you have a situation where you've lost your job, your career, you want to go around the world, you have these, everyone has a story. That's the blessing from God. We all have a story. The issue is we haven't learned how to turn our story into money. I lived for 25 years off of my story. I have no job. I have no career. Oh, by the way, I'm sorry, you guys. I have no degree. Didn't go to college until I was teaching a college course on business and entrepreneurship and things like that. When it comes to it, your story, sister, you need to be talking to mothers who have lost their children, mothers who are afraid to lose their children because you've already lost your children. So you can prepare them. And I don't mean I don't want to be the non-emotional guy, but there's not the emotional side. There's paperwork, there's funerals, there's caskets, there's clothes, there's food, there's catering, there's drivers, there's plane tickets, there's bus tickets, there's van tickets, there's more catering, and there's more food, and there's more drinks. So you need to turn that into money. And most of us out here, we have a story. The problem is we don't know how to attach and monetize our stories. We don't know how to understand that God gave us that situation because we can protect someone else. So the reason for your story is so that you can protect someone from losing their child or their children as you lost your children, which means more than one. How they can protect themselves from that loss. That's what they pay for. Drugs. How they get your kids into college. How they get your kids off gangs. How they get your kids motivated. How to get your kids to listen. Then, of course, if you miss the 101 series, then the 202 series is how to buy a casket when your kids die early. How to deal with the remorse and the frustration when your kids die early. How to deal with your husband, your wife, when you've just lost your children. That's how you make your money off your story. Because there's probably 100,000 people around the world every single day who lose their children. And a lot of times we don't understand that when it comes to it, especially black people understand we're very unique. We're the most empathetic people on earth. We can relate to the racist who hates niggas. We can relate to the person who lost their children or who could lose their children. And we don't care what color, how rich, how poor. Every movie in Hollywood is some black person who meets a rich white person at their lowest place on life earth. And that's our story. And a lot of us, we need to turn that into a business because you could have a story, but there's businesses. An insurance agent. You want to protect your children. If anything happens, you want life insurance. There's many ways to spin this, but to turn your story into money is the key that we all need to learn, which kind of leans to entrepreneurship, brother. You got to have a business. And a lot of folks that may want to express themselves, okay, write a book, write an ebook, put it out there. Specifically target people who have lost their children. And at least in America, where $1 equals 100 naira right now, or 58 pesos right now. Do this. Is it okay? How much is it? So if there's 50,000 Americans lose their kids or lose their job or got diabetes or want to leave the country, or there's 500,000 Americans right now waiting for their passports, turn your story into money. And I think a lot of us really focus on our stories, which is great. It's therapeutic. But your kids need food. Your rent needs to be paid. And a lot of people, especially black people, don't understand. Most people do not have our stories. Most people on earth have not experienced what black people have experienced. How many of you right now, listening right now, I don't know how many you are, how many of you, if you have if you have never in your entire life lost a child, please type amen right now in that chat. If you have never lost a child, type amen. And sister, your story, all of these people, they can't write that story. They don't have it. So for the people that did not chat in here, that you have lost a child or lost a kid or lost a younger sibling, then type in here, bless me. And all those bless me's, that's the folks that want to hear your story. Because the bless me's, they're looking for a blessing. Someone that can tell them, how the hell do I buy 2 caskets? How do I sit up here and call all of my siblings and explain this? What do I wear? What caterer? And then you're going to learn who all your friends. There's that market is your market. The other folks, not so much. And if we focus our stories in the right place and we focus on empowering people, then that's how we monetize our story. I don't want to sound insensitive again. You said I'm American. You know, Americans, we about business. That means ebook on 10 steps to bearing your children. You put products out there to funnel that cash. That's all
Thank
I
you
want to
so
say.
much, Carrie. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for that. All right. So, because of time, we actually have come to the end of today's presentation. So, I would just like to know if Sister Gloria is still there. The topic of today has been strategically using storytelling to build legacy. That is the topic. So, what would be your final thought here, Sister Gloria?
Thank you, Brother Obehi. I just wanted to put a few questions to the listeners in terms of how you can start thinking about exploring your ancestors or doing work with ancestors, and see just a few ways that you may begin if you haven't done that already, how you may begin to think of ways of incorporating this into your stories. How do you feel your ancestors influence your life today? Think on that. What kind of guidance or support are you hoping you can receive from your ancestors? In what ways do you feel your ancestors are already helping or guiding you? And what aspects of your family's past do you feel at this moment might need healing, that you have a sense of within yourself? And most importantly, how do you wish to honor and support your ancestors? What personal intentions or actions can you take to facilitate healing in your ancestral lineage? If it's just one of these questions that you can think of, that it begins to stir and further inquiries in your mind that will help you make those connections, that will be wonderful. If you want to engage in more of that, like I said, I'm on LinkedIn, my website where you can see all the work that I do around this topic is gloriaogumbadejo.com. Thank you again for being here. Gratitude and blessings. Alafia.
Sister, I appreciate that. I really do. Thank you. All right, Dr. Mancia, what is your final thought on the topic of today? Yeah, please go ahead and conclude and let the people know how to reach out to you.
Yes, I like Gloria wanted to end with some questions because it is very important that we tell the story that is bubbling inside of us. You know, a story untold, it destroys our God's plan for us in a large detail because we are here to serve others and not ourselves. And so I wanted to ask and throw to my audience who really want to understand how to turn their story into a legacy is that you want to know what you want to achieve. What is your purpose, first of all? What's your assignment? What is your purpose? And understanding of that will make you know who your audience is. And it will also make you understand the values that you want to convey in your story, because you will have many things happening to you, but there is a constant, there is a theme and a pattern of what happens to you in your life story. If it is a case where you always have to overcome, or you always have to forgive, or there is betrayal, you want that would be a core message in your story. So you would want to look at what you need to share and what your specific goals would want to be as to what you want to achieve from your story. You also want to look at the, if I'm to say it, which is very important, because we are born to do everything, but anything, but we can't do everything. So we would want to ask ourselves, what is the legacy I want to leave behind in my story? What is it that I want someone to be able to do from reading my story? What is it that I want them to overcome from reading my story? What are the events that have shaped my life and has given me the story with conviction and purpose and meaning? What are the lessons that I have learned and the wisdom that I have gained from these experiences that I want to put in my story to serve someone? How can I engage those who I really want to engage, my target audience? Because your story will only reach those that it is intended for. And I know that you're going to put it out there and persons would want to buy it, but the impression will only be left on those who you have been destined to reach and to relate to and to change and to transform and to impact. Which of platforms do I want to use? And what are the methods that I want to use to share my story? And how can I really preserve it? Can I preserve it in an organization, in a grant, in a non-profit way, in a book, in a magazine, in a clip, in a podcast? How can I preserve my story? Because I really want to use it to inspire others and to make a positive impact and to change lives and outcomes. And so if I am alive, how, and I have a story out there and it is doing its work and my organization is doing its work and the podcast is doing its work, how can I improve it and how can I ensure that it continues beyond my lifetime? Those are questions that you need to ask yourself if you want to use your story to build a legacy. One thing I know for sure, Obi, is that every single one of us have a story, and our stories are part of a bigger narrative, the bigger narrative that is called life. Even if we are using it and we are destined to benefit from our story by monetizing our story, that must not be the primary goal. The primary goal is that we want to leave significance behind. Significance means that we serve and impact others. If I can help somebody as I pass along, if I can do my duty in a word or song or a story, if I can help someone that is going wrong, then my living will not be in vain. I can be reached. I am Dr. Marcia Thomas. On my LinkedIn posts, I can also be contacted at drtpmotivate2 at gmail.com. I have a website that I'm really revamping at this time, drtpmotivate2.com. And you can send me a DM on LinkedIn. Please subscribe to my newsletter for Christian Leaders Essentials, my blog. And also remember that we have only ourselves as our greatest assets. And that is why we were created with a life script and a story. We must learn the lessons from our stories and we must share them unapologetically. Make sure that the promptings that God is placing on your heart, that you show up with the promptings that God is giving you. Thank all of you for listening and for taking the time to join us every other Monday. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for Obehi for giving me the opportunity. And please go out and buy the book A Leader Like You. Some of these things I have highlighted and explained in my book A Leader Like You. And also stay tuned and maybe give them your email address too, Obehi, so you can know when we launch our book, Lessons Learned from COVID, which is an anthology by a number of us, any Dr. Ava Powell, Dr. Tolu, Professor Roxanne. We have compiled our books with the lessons that we learned from COVID. In our different walks, we have told our stories, and we hope that our stories, we know that our stories will impact you in unprecedented ways and bring courage and hope and inspiration. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Matia. Thank you. I appreciate you. All right. Briefly, dear Carrie, what is going to be your final thought to conclude the conversation? Please be brief on the topic, strategically using storytelling to build legacy.
Well, you know what, good guys, we're live in the studio here, guys. We're of a more hype, fun studio here, but I disagree in the sense that you guys, again, storytelling is about. I get the whole my story, but storytelling is about making your story monetize. Every person has a story, but the reason you're mentioning Pepsi and Coke and McDonald's and all of these companies is because all of them had a business, and many of you out there have a business, and most of you in a business, you're not making the money you need to make in your business. You're not standing out in your business because you haven't figured out what your story is. A lot of folks are thinking of a story as something that you start with. You do not start with a story. You start with a business. And then once you build the business and you build it to a certain level, then you back up and you reverse psychology, you reverse engineer, and you figure out what is my story, because that makes it powerful. Coke, they started with 24 bottles in a crock pot. McDonald's, he started when he was almost 70 years old with the recipe he may have stole from a black person. Jack Daniels, same thing, started with the recipe. If you look at any of these people, there is a story. There's a grandfather, there's a great grandfather, a great 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 grandfather, great 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 grandmother. And what happens is, if you have your business, you cannot build a business on a story. You build a story upon a business. You have a business right now that you make. It's a basic business. You make rivets, you make crock pots, you bake pies, you make fried chicken, and then you think, what is my story? My recipe is my grandmother's fried chicken, and my grandmother taught me this fried chicken when I was sitting next to her. My recipe is I have a catering business, and my catering business started because I used to cater for my family. You need to find your story after your business to monetize on your story. I understand what you're saying about moving people, pushing people, making folks feel about how they, which means a way for you to, then what happens is you need to find the story behind that business. And that's how I see storytelling. Otherwise, why are we telling our stories?
All right. Maybe that is a problem of connection, both with Karen and also with Dr. Matia. All right. Cyrus, thank you for joining us. What is going to be your contribution? Please be brief about that. We're almost closing.
Yeah, sure. Good afternoon. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Wherever you are based. I was going to say, I am going to express my view in this way. I'm going to agree with Dr. Marcia and Mr. Jackson. And I think they're both saying the same thing, only in a different way, right? So it is quite obvious that the purpose of telling your story is to preserve your business, right? So, and to have a business without a story, you can start a business, but you're not going to be able to achieve a great deal of success with it. And this is the reason why 25% of businesses go out of business within the first 12 months. So, because they don't have a story, or if they have one, they hide it from the crowds, and they don't know how to publicize it, right? So, in a way, both the lady and the gentleman are saying the right thing, right? So, only your approach might be different, or you might look at it differently. So, have you heard about the bird that flies into this house, sits on the edge of this fish tank, and says to the fish, the bird says to the fish, "Your cage is open. Why won't you fly away? So what does that mean? That means that bird didn't understand the fish's needs. Okay, so that's what happens to a lot of businesses, right? A business that doesn't understand the pain points of the customers is doomed to get perished. That's the top and bottom of it, right? So if you're telling a story, your story should connect. Your life story or the stuff that's happened to you should connect to people's pain points. So you can get them to understand, oh yeah, guys, I understand you. We understand you. Come and buy our product because we understand you. That's the top and bottom of that business strategy, at least on paper. It should be that way. Thank you so much for listening, guys. Take good care of yourselves and your business. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. All right, now I want to just quickly clarify the point here, and I think it is very important. In fact, one of the rule, actually, we don't never mention the rule here of storytelling, is that when we are talking about story or using the power of story in our business, it needs to be on point and on target and on purpose, which is to say, when you are telling a story, you are really specific on what you're talking about. And if this is clear here, it means this room today is not really about business storytelling. In fact, we have a separate room for business storytelling where we talk about everything on how to use storytelling for business. So if we were in that room and we're talking about legacy the way we are talking about it today, it will not resonate with the people. So if in this room, for example, now we are talking about business storytelling, it's also not going to resonate with the people that much because the mindset of this particular room is how to leverage storytelling for legacy, how to build your legacy as a people. In fact, that is what the topic is talking about. Strategically using storytelling to build legacy. Of course, this is not in contrast to the fact that we cannot use storytelling for business. Only that we don't want to mix everything up together. Otherwise, it's going to be very complicated for people to understand. So the topic of today's conversation is using storytelling to build legacy. And I think that is very important for us. Otherwise, we're going to get it confusing. Okay, storytelling is good. Oh, storytelling is not good. That is none of the point. So I think those really need to be clarified. I really want to appreciate all of you for your contribution. We so much appreciate your contribution. It's highly, highly valuable. It's nothing to take away. Just that this particular room today is about building legacy. So I want to appreciate you again, Dr. Kari, and of course, Cyrus, and Dr. Mancia, and of course, all the other people that have spoken. Thank you. And of course, we are here again 40 days from now. We are here every 40 days. We'll be taking on another topic on the Diaspora Storytelling Series. And if you want to learn more about storytelling for business, please join us on next week, the 22nd, where we're going to be taking on an argument on business storytelling. So thank you, everyone. I appreciate you all. One love from here.